feel like no one understands your affliction, when you feel like no one's home, so alone in your addiction. Well, if your dealer lives left, then put your headphones on and walk to the right. 'Cause there's a nation out there, keep you safe, keep you clean, at least for tonight. So pay attention, Dopey Nation, the afflicted wanna reminisce. So pay attention, Dopey Nation, for our fallen brothers Todd and Chris. Life seems like a curse with the hearse in reverse. Put a smile on your face at last. So pay attention, Dopey Nation. It's time for the Dopey Podcast. Stay strong, Dopey Nation. Time for Dave and the Dopey Podcast.
This episode of Dopey is brought to you by our friends at Oro Recovery, located in sunny Southern California, in Malibu, in Silver Lake, and somewhere in Western Los Angeles. Oro was created by our friend Bob Forrest and his friends Evan, Jared, and Bob. Their mission: to create a facility where alcoholics and drug addicts are treated with compassion and connection rather than control. They have many decades of experience in treating multiple coexisting mental health conditions, including severe mental illness. They make sure your detox is as comfortable as possible, which is key if you're kicking dope or coke or crack or meth or alcohol or whatever you're kicking. A nice detox is always great. They have amenities you wouldn't believe. Fucking equine therapy, surfing, the spiritually potentially transformative sweat lodge, and everyone that I know that have been to Oro can't say enough good things about it. So if you're willing to get better and you're willing to go to sunny Southern California, I highly suggest going to Oro. This episode of Dopey is also brought to you by our friends at SoberLink. As we all know, addiction is a serious issue that needs to be addressed. Nearly 15 million people in the U.S. have an alcohol use disorder, and that's alcohol use only, not other drugs too. Only 10% of those people get treatment. This can be attributed to the stigma that surrounds addiction and how people don't want to talk about it. SoberLink supports the no judgment zone that Dopey is and strives to erase the stigma of alcohol addiction. Their remote alcohol monitoring tool has helped over 500,000 people to be more accountable in their sobriety. The Dopey Podcast was started with open and honest conversations about addiction and recovery, and SoberLink encourages this to help rebuild trust and maintain sobriety. We at Dopey have teamed up with SoberLink to create a healthy habits guide for those in recovery. Visit www.soberlink.com/dopey to download that healthy habits guide. And if you or someone you know can benefit from accountability for alcohol recovery, you'll also find a form on that page to sign up for a $50 off promo code exclusive to you guys in the Dopey Nation. So go to SoberLink, let them help you and your family to stay off of the sauce. This episode of Dopey is also brought to you by our friends at SoberBuddy. I know I've talked to you guys about the SoberBuddy app before, and I still think you guys should check it out. But what I want to tell you today is that SoberBuddy has just opened up a crowdfunding campaign that allows you to own a piece of the company, which is super cool. You can help them raise the money that they need, and they give you shares. It's a win-win scenario. You can purchase shares in the regular crowdfunding offering and raise capital for future expansion. You can find the link to their campaign on my website, dopeypodcast.com, or on their website, yoursoberbuddy.com. SoberBuddy has already helped over 30,000 people on their sober journey, and this is your chance to help them get their app out to even more folks. So check it out. Give them some love to support a product that helps people achieve sobriety, which is something that we at Dopey really love. And sign up for their app so you can have your own SoberBuddy. This episode of Dopey And the entire Toodles for Chris scholarship program is brought to you by New Harbor at Hingham. It is a sober home for men in Hingham, Massachusetts, founded by Dopey Scholarship Chair Justin and his partner Eric. They're passionate about helping guys find freedom to live a life of meaning and purpose through recovery as they have. Each client and family receives personalized planning and attention to give them the best shot at lasting recovery. Visit them at www.newharborhingham.com. Before we get to the show, I want to remind you that Dopey Patreon is booming right now. This week, we had Jed Shred. We did the DJ set with me and Justin where you can listen to some amazing music. There's video. There's new Ben & Jerry's ice cream videos where me and Howie are trying the flavors. Support Dopey Patreon. Support the show. It helps make the show more dopey. www.patreon.com/dopey podcast. Also, buy gear. The newest and new praying mantis and mushroom gear is up at dopeypodcast.com. Buy hats, buy fucking beanies, ski hats, socks. Venmo me for that shit. Not to mention a bevy of super cool Dopey stickers. Support the show, buy the merch, do the Patreon, and please subscribe to YouTube. We're fucking killing ourselves over here making YouTube. All right. Enough with the fucking ads. Here is the show. Hello and welcome to Dopey, the podcast on drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. My name is Dave, and we're back in New York City. And we are joined again by the lovely and talented and author and unlicensed advice columnist, Erin Khar, author of Strung Out, which I want to say right now is available wherever your books are sold. So go get yourself a copy. Welcome back, Erin.
Thank you.
How you like the sales pitch before you're on?
I love it.
It's
I love
good.
it. And don't forget, if you send an Ask Erin question in through Patreon, then I'll send you a copy of my book.
How many copies do you have?
I don't know. I have like a little stack at home, but no, people who like half the people who wrote in questions like don't give me their address. So
right, that's a win. You get the question and you don't have to send the book.
And also, you can send me your address if you want to get a handwritten letter by me.
What about if you want a handwritten letter in the front cover of the book?
Sure.
It's like some deep like.
Well, there's only so much room.
Well,
yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah.
That seems like plenty. Now, Erin has not been on the show, I don't know how long, but she's been on Patreon.
Yes.
So what that says to me is I want more of you guys to be on Patreon. There's tons of Ask Erin stuff. Yesterday, we had Dopey legend Jed Shredwords out of Kansas City, Missouri, who's a Buddhist, and he's an old school Dopey Nation guy. And we did our first ever Dopey DJ set on Sunday with the co-writer of Good So Bad, my friend Justin, who I grew up with. And I want you guys on Patreon. There's so much good stuff. I mean, I want your money, but I really want you to enjoy the nooks and crannies of the Doposphere.
It's pretty fun. And it's fun when people interact. I mean, there are a handful of people who interact with the Patreon stuff and the Ask Erin stuff. And it's great. I love it.
There's so much opportunity for dopes to interact with Dopey and other dopes in Dopey Patreon. That's my shameless plug. Erin, how are you on this fine Wednesday morning?
I'm really happy because my child went back to school today after we had to quarantine because he had an exposure at school.
And how long was the quarantine?
8 days. If he could, because he's not vaccinated, he's only 4. He could go back after 8 days with a negative PCR test.
We had Susan home as like a kind of residual quarantine.
Right.
And also just because of like the germs of the world. I don't know. Like, and Susan went back to school yesterday for the first day too. So you feel free at last.
I do. There's a sense of definite freedom from it. I can't get much done, but I did do a lot of cleaning last week.
Oh my God.
Because I can kind of like, if that gets interrupted, I can go back to it. If writing gets interrupted, it's a lot different.
Erin's cleaning is like, it's next level, just next level shit. She called me and she was like, my new thing is to not have containers in the fridge. So she bought a bunch of milk bottles, right? That's what they call these glass
Yeah,
bottles.
they're glass bottles. I mean, one has cold brew coffee in it.
I could imagine that you're the kind of person, and I know that sounds like a negative way to start a sentence, but you're the kind of person that would have milk delivered on your doorstep in bottles.
I mean, actually,
I could see you get farm fresh eggs and milk delivered to 9th Street. Is that true?
We do not. But when I was growing up in California, we did.
The milkman would come.
It was not like the milkman like in the 50s, but yeah, they had a delivery service that would bring milk. And like, did you ever drink kefir when you were a kid, like that yogurt drink?
No.
It's really good, although I don't like it now, but I used to get peach flavored kefir. Anybody who's in California, there's like, I think it was Altadena would do that. They would deliver it.
Okay. No, I like this house is like the anti-kefir kind of a house.
Right.
Like we didn't get stuff like that
Right.
here. We got very homogenized, highly processed goods in this house. No like raw yogurt drinks and stuff like that. Today we have a very exciting show. I'm very excited because we have an international guest, an international meme-making maniac, Lowe's from Brutal Recovery, who's from Scotland. Can you do a little Scottish or no?
Let me see. Let's see. When I do this, I was going to do Gaelic. It's all right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but I don't sound the way she does.
Yeah, my Scottish.
I don't sound pretty and sexy. I sound like a man in a pub.
So you think she has a pretty and sexy voice?
I think she has a beautiful voice. Yeah.
She's an opera singer too.
I know.
So I asked her to do like some Dopey opera stuff. Let's see if she comes through. She also may or may not do a Dopey meme for this week. She wrote me this morning, and where I got sober in the group, the meeting that I got sober in this last time. It's funny because I went to so many detoxes, and in the end, I got sober in a room, like not a detox, which is, interesting to me. But there was a lady in the room, this Irish woman, who everyone called Irish Eileen. And Irish Eileen married a dude in our group, and they almost subletted my apartment. And then she moved back to England, ran into Lowe's, and said, "Do you know Dave from Dopey?" And it's like, cool, right?
That is very cool.
International fucking dopes. And I love international dopes. And I love all the dopes, but there's a lot of news in the Dopey Nation that I would like to report on. My favorite news is there's been a new Dopey tattoo birthed into the universe. The Dopey Buddha has been birthed onto Liz Ann's arm. And for me, that's the culty of the cult.
Right.
And not saying that Liz Ann is a cult member
in a good way.
or that Dopey is a cult. I'm just saying when somebody tattoos and this guy, Ben Crawford, who's a big time Dopey Nation guy, made this Dopey Buddha. It's super cool. Did you see the tattoo?
Yes, yeah.
Super
amazing.
As far as tattoos go, I support this tattoo. And I think I like Dopey tattoos more than anything.
It's pretty. How many are there now?
I don't know. I like to say 22, but I have no idea.
Right.
Around there, somewhere in that ballpark.
Right.
But so I want to and Ben drew the Buddha. Ben does amazing work. Liz Ann and Ben are both like pillars of the Dopey Nation community. So and you're not in the Dopey Nation Facebook community, which I find odd because you're so extroverted online.
I'm not in there.
You're never in it.
Oh, you know what? I think I don't spend that much time on Facebook. I think that's the problem.
It's not cool. You're too cool. You're too cool for Facebook.
It's not that.
It's like an early 2000s kind of thing.
It's very well. I think I didn't get on Facebook until 2007.
I got in 2008.
Yeah.
I was late, but I was still high.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's such a trip. Do you know that I figured out the last day that I did I tell you this? That I figured out the last day that I did heroin? Because I never counted days this time.
You never did?
I mean, before, but this time that worked, I didn't count days.
Never even in the beginning? Mm-mm. That's interesting. Mm-mm. So what was the date?
March 4th was the last time I used.
And what was the year?
2003. So it'll be 19 years.
In 2003, I think I was in treatment in Florida. Mm-hmm. So that
was when you met Sam.
That was when I met Sam.
Because when I listened to the Sam episode,
that's when the date popped into your head.
Yeah. That's when I was trying to figure out, because he didn't know his date or whatever. So I was trying to figure that out, and I was like, I knew based on when the LA Marathon was, so that's how I figured it out.
So that's 19 years.
19 years. Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Very impressive. And a lot of the Dopey Nation made fun of me not this Christmas, but 2 Christmases ago, when one of the gifts I bought for Linda was a robot vacuum cleaner. And lots of the Dopey Nation chided me, got angry at me, and said, that's not a good present to get your domestic partner.
Because it's that old thing of like every time, like for Mother's Day, you get your wife like a washing machine or something like that kind of thing.
It's like
I mean, unless did she say that she really wanted one or
no, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was funny. It was like a Ralph Cramden kind of thing.
I mean, I guess if you got her other things and it was
so
like
much stuff.
Then I don't think it's a big deal. If it's like a funny side gift, sure.
It was and a big garbage can too. Those are my 2 funny side gifts that I thought were hysterical. She didn't really, we used the garbage can and we put the robot vacuum cleaner in the basement, never to be discussed again.
Wait, you never used the robot vacuum cleaner?
We never used it until recently.
Okay.
Where I don't remember what happened. Some like horrible thing happened. Oh, we were in the living room. Linda was like sick in bed, and Susan took a glass bowl and smashed it on the floor. She didn't just drop it. She like chucked it down, and it exploded in the fine glass crystals. And I think I was sick too. Linda comes down. It's a nightmare. And what comes to the rescue?
That robot fucking vacuum.
The robot vacuum cleaner. And now, like, we don't go to bed without having robot running around the downstairs.
And you have a cat. So, like...
Yes.
Your face. You have a cat, so that, like, that's helpful, like, for getting cat hair. Because I have a cat, and so...
I want the robot vacuum cleaner to kill the cat. That would be the most helpful thing. But so everyone in the Dopey Nation who laughed at me, now who's laughing? Me.
Yeah.
I'm laughing. And in other news, I've said this on the show a bunch of times, which tells me Erin's not listening to the show.
When did you say this
I
on
say
the
it
show?
all the time. I said it on the Sam episode. I said it on all these episodes.
I didn't hear you say... I listened to the whole Sam episode.
You must be pre like... What's the word I'm looking for?
Preoccupied?
Preoccupied with your milk bottles and your fucking cold brew in the glass bottles and shit. Her fridge looks pretty amazing.
It's going to look even better.
It's like the 1940s. Everything is sparkling, and it's like the 1940s in 2022. Everything's sparkling and gray and popping with action.
I'm going to tell you something that it's a good mental health hack is if you take apart your refrigerator, it sounds a lot more time consuming than it actually is.
Here we go.
You take the shelves off, take the bins out. You just wash them with some soapy warm water, dry them off, put them back in, wipe down all your bottles, arrange things properly. The feeling, like the happiness and like sort of peace that it brought me was incredible.
I think that's like a TikTok thing. Like, I think people do these organizational TikTok videos, and you live for this kind of stuff.
Love it.
So this could be a whole thing.
Yeah.
And maybe Ask Erin could become Erin Organizes.
No, there's so many on TikTok. I don't need to go into that space.
Why not, though? You live for it, and it looks very... I mean, she pulled out her phone as soon as she got here to show me what her fridge looked like. And do you know how many thousands of people could bask in the greatness of your refrigerator?
I guess.
I know the wheels are the wheels turning.
As good as the ones on TikTok, though.
But are you sure?
No.
I bet you could get there. You're highly competitive.
That's true.
You don't. I mean, you're gonna see one and be like, all I have to do. It's like Linda with the charcuterie board. Mm-hmm. Like her is it char or char?
Charcuterie.
Say that again.
Charcuterie.
Oh, no one says that.
Okay, charcuterie.
Charcuterie. That's the Norwegian? What is that?
No, it's a French word.
Say it again.
Charcuterie.
So if you're hanging out and someone brings it out, you say, "Oh my God, that charcuterie board looks amazing."
Charcuterie.
So that's the quick way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, I won't really think about it. I mean, I'll probably say it all different sorts of ways. Do you want to hear something? I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but really quickly. I say words differently all the time, I notice, and I've been doing this letter writing thing, writing at least one letter a day, mostly to strangers, some to my friends. And when I write, I sometimes make a capital I with the line above and below, and sometimes I just do a line that kind of looks like an L, and I go back and forth. And like you've listened to like handwriting experts, they talk about like people who have inconsistencies in their writing, like that's like a sign of mental illness. I I think I remember hearing that. I could be totally making this up in my head, but I have some memory of that. And every time I see that I've done it, I'm like, does this mean I'm an unhinged person?
Definitely.
Yeah, right?
Definitely. But do you think, like, where do you think it comes from? Like, I know that when I was a kid, I made this effort to write A's like this. Like, I made an effort to do that, to write the fucking, I don't know. I thought it was cool. And then when I got a little bit older, I was like, that's not cool at all. And I stopped making my A's like that. And then there was probably a little time in there that habitually I would make the stupid A. And then I went back to doing the classic A. So why do you think you do sometimes the I that way?
Because I think that I should do the big I, and then I just do the line because my hand starts cramping.
When I type, I never use caps. I sign Dave, lowercase Dave, like I'm E.E. Cummings.
I often in an email will just do like XX and then E.
Like you're E.E. Cummings. Lowercase E?
Lowercase E.
I don't think E.E. Cummings
But I'm not a
did the XX.
lowercase person in general. Like, and I'm not in all caps, but I like to capitalize words properly, even in text.
I find that you are a person who puts effort into most everything that you do.
I don't know about that.
Well, come on. Charcuterie, the fucking fridge.
Not charcuterie.
Your letter writing. You put a lot of effort into a lot of things, and you can say you don't.
No, you know what it is? It's mindfulness. It's like my attempt to try and be present because my brain is always racing. So it helps me, like, if I focus on doing something in that way, it helps my brain kind of slow down and helps me be present.
Right. It's a great meditative tool to go slow and to be have follow through. Get it done.
Yeah.
And in the spirit of that,
yes,
like what we were just talking about, was that when Sam told me he was going to quit the show, I was like, I got to get into therapy. Because I called Sam every day, like 10 times a day. So I got into therapy with my old therapist, and I've done 3 sessions, and it's good.
This makes me so happy.
Why?
Because
what do you fucking care if I'm
Because from the time that we started hanging out, I have said that I thought therapy might be a good idea.
No, it's been incredible. Yeah. Now, like, things are happening that you wouldn't believe, and I owe it all to the wonders of therapy. And you guys could have amazing breakthroughs too, because coincidentally, this podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Check out betterhelp.com/dopey podcast and get yourself some fucking online therapy, because BetterHelp is customized, and I've been doing it on Zoom with my therapist.
Yeah, I do Zoom too.
So it's like online. It's the same thing.
It's all about accessibility.
All right, you should put that in the copy.
Yeah.
BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. I like seeing her on camera. I think it's nice. It's much more affordable than an in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Unload the stressors. That's what I've been doing, and get some unbiased feedback. She's like supportive. Mm-hmm. She's a very supportive person in my life. It's nice.
It's great.
I was like, what's happening? Why is somebody being supportive? I always wanted a therapist who would tell me, like, what's wrong with me. Like, that's what I craved in a therapist. But it turns out the support is way better than that.
It's absolutely.
So once again, this podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp.com. And Dopey listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/Dopey podcast by entering BetterHelp.com/Dopey podcast. Get 10% off. Get some BetterHelp right now. Right?
Yes, I think everyone needs therapy.
Now, I don't know if our next guest is in therapy. Does she say she was in therapy?
Oh gosh, I might have it in my notes.
And she is a just an incredible example of a woman in recovery from Scotland. She's like, I've encountered her through Instagram. There's a page called Fucking Sober, which I love. And the guy who runs Fucking Sober is this very sweet guy named Max. And he told me about brutal recovery, and her take on recovery and memes is very unique, and it's
so good.
Very bright, very feminine.
Yes. And so many women I know who are in recovery have sent me her memes, which is amazing.
but at the same time, she's Scottish, which is
Yes.
fucking awesome.
Best accent.
And she like did a bunch of drugs too. And her story is very, very, very. Hello and welcome to Dopey, the podcast on drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. My name is Dave, and I have a very, very special. So our guest is coming to us from across the pond, across the Atlantic Ocean. She's kind of a dopey, very important person. You're a serious addiction person for sure. Her name, well, she goes by the alias of Lowe's. She's from Scotland, and she does the incredibly popular and fun and brilliant Instagram meme page called Brutal Recovery. Welcome to the show.
Oh, what an introduction. Thank you so much.
Are you kidding me? I mean, like, listen, like, how many people follow Brutal Recovery?
I think at the moment I'm on, I checked this morning, it was about 76,000, which is crazy. It's like, because I started it about 3 years ago just because I was really resentful at how well everyone seemed to be doing on the internet. And I was like, oh my God, I still can't manage my emotions. At the time I had about 9 months sober. And I still couldn't manage my emotions. Like, I didn't have shit in the bank. Like, I was just like, why is everyone like doing yoga and drinking smoothies? And I'm like crying in the shower. So I just started making these like, and I was, I'm Scottish. The way we deal with our life circumstances is humor. So I was like, I'm just going to meme this. And, it sat on low numbers for a while. And then I think it was like at the start of the pandemic when everyone was confronted with their emotions and didn't quite know what to do, that like the numbers started coming in, and I was like, oh my God, this is something now. Like, this is
I think
actually a thing.
I think I was following you before the pandemic, and your style is different than the other style, and I think a lot of it is that you're a woman. And your woman style is strong. The female style of Brutal Recovery is strong, and that's nice. And like the brutality is definitely intact. But what made you know that you could do memes at all? Like, I can't come up with anything, nothing.
Oh my God, it's so interesting because I was talking to a friend about this, who he was like, he's followed me for a while as well. And it seems quite easy on the surface. You get a picture, you put some text over it, done. But it's like, he was like, I was trying to make some memes and I just couldn't do it. Like, how do you do it? And the way that I see it is like, as an addict, as someone who was like, I was born an alcoholic. I'm one of those like, I was just born crawling out of my skin and like feeling different and weird. And I was always like analyzing the world around me. And I was always like trying to like make sense of everything and like make it simple so that I could, start doing it like and be a normal human being. The idea of just like always information seeking and always like trying to like stay on trends and assign words to things and make everything make sense. Actually, when you kind of reframe that, like, it's why so many comedians are in recovery. So many comedians are sober because they have the same thing. It's like you're always analyzing, and like a way of reframing that for me in recovery has just been kind of like laughing at it. Just like, it's hilarious that like I spend my entire life overthinking everything. So putting it into a really simple visual format, just it's a good processing tool, but it's also practice. Like, I was really, if you scroll all the way down, like my first memes are kind of weak. Like, they're, there's something there, but my style has definitely changed and
developed,
adapted over the years.
You've got a very developed meme style. Because, like, I mean, we all come from kind of the same place. Like this ridiculously overactive thinking, self-deprecating, self-hating, self-centered spot. Mm-hmm. And then like we get into, I was like that, since I was a kid. I didn't connect it to my addictness or my alcoholicness, even in recovery. Like, I didn't, it was a hard leap because I was just like you're a Scottish person whose humor is everything, and I'm a Jewish person whose humor is everything. And like, there's a whole universe of self-hating, self-deprecating Jews that never shot heroin or became alcoholics. You know what I mean? So it's like, but when I did it, when we started doing Dopey, it was just like to like have fun and laugh and do the same thing. But I could never figure out how to elegantly put it in one image with words. It's a whole, or a comedian, like, I don't know that I could write bits, but I think I'd be better at writing bits than doing memes. I think it's a very special talent. I really do.
It's not something I can put. Maybe it's something I could put on my resume. I was going to say that like I can't put it on my resume, but maybe I can.
I think nowadays you definitely can, and I think I'm also basically buttering you up to ask for some Dopey censored memes. Do you know? Funnily
enough, I recall quite early on there was one of my memes. It was the Robert Downey Jr. Sarah Jessica Parker, like about robbing the pill cabinet.
Yes.
Like I remember I opened my phone one day and I had like 100 new followers in like 10 minutes, and I was like, what just happened? And I saw that you shared my meme, and I remember thinking, oh my God, Dopey, like sharing my meme. I was losing my shit because I listened to an episode of Dopey before I got sober. I don't remember which one. I don't remember anything about it, but I remember at that time in my life just thinking, oh my God, here are these people talking about the things that I am scared to admit to myself. Like, I can't even admit this stuff. I can't even hold this stuff inside my body. And they're just talking about it like it's the most normal thing in the world. And that's what I want to do. Like, through the easy, simple visual format of memes, I just want people to know that one day you're going to laugh at this shit. It feels like the universe is on top right now, but one day that's just going to roll off you. And you got to keep laughing because, you know what they all like, if you don't laugh, you cry. Maybe you can do both at the same time. I frequently do.
You can. You're the master of the crygasm, which I've never experienced. Can you explain the crygasm? I mean, I have. I have the laughgasm, like when things are at their breaking point and something happens, I can have the laughgasm. The crygasm I don't have so easily. Can you describe the crygasm and also the doom scrolling? All these phrases I've kind of gotten from you. So please.
So few people know this about me, but I am the ugliest crier in the world.
I don't believe it.
That,
I don't believe it.
Okay, I've got visual evidence. I'll share it when this episode drops. I'll share visual evidence of how I cry. It's like, you know, when Kim Kardashian cries, and that face just goes all gurney. Like it's incredible. Like people, I was with friends. We were watching a weepy film, and I was sobbing, like absolutely sobbing. And they were just like, oh my God, Lauren, for like someone with a symmetrical face, you are the most hideous crier I've ever seen in my life.
That's awesome.
You know, the crygasm is just like when that valve gets released, you know, like when you and it doesn't happen as much anymore because I've got a little bit more emotional regulation in my life. But you know, that moment where you just like tip over into your cry and you just, you know, like when... You know, when you're orgasming, your face isn't necessarily the most gorgeous thing in the world because you're losing all control. It's that, but crying, like where you can't even edit yourself, where you can't even, you know, with the snots coming down your nose, your mouth is in a shape that it shouldn't be in, your eyes are like crinkled to the point that they're going to break, and you're just like letting it all go.
So when's the last time that happened? When's the last crygasm?
My last crygasm, this is actually really funny. It was... I had, you know, this, I just got back to work, and, you know, work for me, got to be really measured. I work with kids, so I've got to, like, you know, hide the fact that I'm a scumbag all the time. So it's like, you know, I'm very in control and very, you know, using my children voice and keeping everything light and breezy.
So funny.
Anyway.
It's so funny that you should be like, and here's my meme page after that. And here's,
I know, like, could not be further apart. So I was like getting to that point where I was like, oh, I've got to build up. Like, you know, my double life's getting it's not the double life in the way that the alcoholic lives a double life, but like, it's, you know, you've got your work self, your self. And I was watching, oh my God, Titanic, like the most cliche film in the world with some friends. And I started crying about 20 minutes in and just like didn't stop till the end. And like my friends were like videoing me because they were like, we have never seen anything this histrionic in our lives. I was just like letting it go. And you know what? That next day, I felt amazing. Like I was just like, wow, like I let go of something primal there.
See, I think that could be a thing, some kind of cry therapy, but how do you get someone to, like, what do you do to, like, you can't just be screening Titanic. That's not gonna happen. When do you suppose, like, I want to hear your story a little bit. Like, when did alcoholic, I mean, you say you were born alcoholic and I believe you, but when did you start drinking?
Oh my God. So I, you know, my first, like, I've been reflecting on this a lot recently, and I think my first like addiction was probably anorexia, because I have always been so, you know, obsessed with like not being in my body. So I was like, oh my God, I don't have to be in my body if I don't have a body. If I weigh 70 pounds, like everything will be fine. I can control the life around me. So when I found alcohol, I was about 13, and that. It's a strange thing to say, but like alcoholism gave me some relief from my anorexia.
When did the anorexia develop?
Oh God, when I was about 11, like I was quite young. Like it was, I was just like one of those like hypersensitive children. Like when I found out that the ocean was being polluted, like I lost my shit. Like at 9 years old, I was like howling because like what's going to happen to the ocean? And then like I learned all about the rainforest, and I was like, fuck, the rainforest's going down too. Like what are we going to do, guys? Like that was me. So like, and I obviously like I grew up in Scotland, and you know, you think of you think of Scottish people and you think, I don't know, what do you think when you think of Scotland? It's like
you think of heroin addicts, alcoholics,
heroin,
you think that
rage, like,
somewhere in the north of the United Kingdom, which is probably not even right. That I like. This is what I think of. I think of heroin first because of Train Spotting.
Of course.
I think of it's a beautiful accent. It's like, it is such a beautiful accent. Like, because I waited tables for years and years. And if there was a Scottish table, like I would just be like, tell me everything. Tell me your whole story just so I could hear them. And everyone says fucking in the middle of what they say, like we do, but in the most beautiful accent. Like this is how I rate like English speaking accents. Okay. Mm-hmm. Number one is probably Scottish. I mean, like I'm kind of indifferent, like Scottish, really Cockney English, really like rural Irish. Like I like all of that. And then I like really, really hardcore New York, Bronx, Brooklyn. Yep. Then I'm like, I don't know. Then after that, it's like maybe like some kind of like real stoner California. And then like, but then we dip into like the sub for me is like, I don't like Australian accents. Like
controversial.
I know. I mean, we have a lot of Australian fans, and I like their accents. Like, there's a very, very like very renowned Australian dopey listener named David Masculani, and he's got an incredible accent. But Australians that I used to wait on their tables, I don't want to hear about it. But the worst of all English speaking accents is definitely the South African accent.
Do you think?
For me, for my money. I don't think we have a lot of dopey listeners in South Africa.
Oh my God. That's so funny because like I'm dating right now, and like I get really excited on Hinge whenever I match with a South African.
Why? You like the South African accent?
I feel like because you know, there's only 5 million Scottish people in the world. We're quite rare. So like when people hear my voice, they're like, "Ooh, that's a weird accent." So like when I think I'm with a South African, I'm like, oh, this takes the heat off me. Like I don't have the weird accent anymore. They have the weird accent.
You know, I think my analysis is also based on tipping, because South Africans are the worst tippers out of all English speaking countries. They're just terrible. And then there's apartheid and everything else. It's a fucking disaster down there.
Yeah, shite crack, yeah. Anyway.
But hold on.
Now that's settled.
How do you rate, or are you not as judgmental as me? What's your favorite English speaking accent?
Well, I live in East London, so I'm really obsessed with the Cockney accent.
It's amazing.
It really, really does it for me. I recall, so I lived in America for 5 years. I actually got sober in America.
Where?
I went Connecticut.
No way. Where in Connecticut?
Yeah, New Haven, Connecticut. That's where I got sober.
What were you doing there?
I was in grad school.
Were you in Yale grad school?
Yeah. So this is like all part. I was very much like a failing upwards drunk. So I did a master's that I was failing in Indiana, that I was failing horrendously. Like they literally were like, "Can you just graduate so you can leave?" And then the Yale School of Music was like, do you want to come here? Like, we've got this graduate program. We love your voice. I'm a singer, for context. And they were like, we've got this graduate program. Like, we'd love to have you. We'd fund you, like, coming over. And I said no, because I was fully intending on killing myself. I was like, listen, lady, like, I've not heard of any Yale, and I don't know what you're trying to make me do, but like, absolutely not. And they persisted with me. And then I went to I said no, and they were kind of like, okay, call us back in 2 weeks. So I went to Philadelphia, and I got a hotel room for like a week. So I love Philadelphia. Philadelphia is like my favorite city in
Working
America,
town.
strangely.
Yeah, working town. It's a good
Love
town.
it.
Yeah.
Like
It feels like
Philadelphia listeners, I love
1979 all the time in Philadelphia.
all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like Glasgow, like
Right.
it's beautiful, it's industrial, there's like the vague fear of being stabbed all the time. Like that's where I want that. Like that's my energy. So I went and got a hotel room in Philadelphia, and I just got drunk for a week in this hotel room. I spent like my last dollar in this, and I in my head I thought I was like Bukowski. I was like, I'm gonna write a novel, I'm gonna write poetry, like this is gonna be the Philadelphia sessions. That did not happen. I did not write a single fucking word. I just like planned on killing myself, or like just, you know, having like a really stupid like drinking or drugging accident, and, you know, saying like peace out to the world. And then so Yale called me back, and they were like, do you want to come? Like, do you want to come? Like, we really still want you. And I had a contract that I was going to do back in Europe, and I was like, I was really, really, really waiting to kill myself. But what if I do this contract, and if I still want to, you know, be a singer, if I still want to be alive after this contract, maybe I'll go do this stupid fucking grad program that they're talking about.
What was the contract?
It was an opera called Don Giovanni.
It was a what? It was what?
It was an opera. I was singing.
You can sing opera?
I can sing opera. Yeah, man. That's my secret superpower.
You've got a lot of secret superpowers, right? You really did. But I also like jumped. I jumped from anorexic 11-year-old you to operatic Yale you.
We missed some years.
No,
we missed the Glasgow years.
I want to hear the rest of this. And you wound up at Yale singing opera?
I did, and then I had a horribly messy, embarrassing rock bottom at Yale, and I thought they were going to like kick me out, but it was them that was like, we're going to get you help. And for some bizarre reason, I was like, okay, like I'm done. And I have no idea why, because like everyone had been trying to help me my whole life, and I just like moved country. But for some reason, like I always say it's like my little window of grace. I had that tiny window of grace where I was in the room with like a psychiatrist, a psychologist, an addiction counselor, and they were kind of like, we want to help you. You're a mess.
Hold on, though.
And
what's rock bottom at Yale look like?
Rock bottom at Yale looks like you're in a production for an opera that you're getting called out for being shit at. The director's raging at you. The costume mistress is raging at you. You just did a dress rehearsal that was absolutely shit. We're in the tech week, so they say if you drink on this, you're going to ruin everything. Do not drink. So you stop drinking and you go into withdrawal in the dressing room in a pile of coats on the floor and ruin everything. So that was, you know, I got a lot of physical withdrawal symptoms, and it was, I went to the hospital, and that's where they were kind of like, something is amiss here.
And the show didn't go on, or the show did go on?
The show eventually went on. Yeah, there was cover, and eventually I got the medical help that I needed, and it was, you know, there was enough space that I could kind of drag my carcass onto the stage for the show. But like that was my operatic career. Like I was just dragging my carcass about. Like that was it. I was not present. I was just doing this thing, and for a while in sobriety as well, because like, you know, opera is so emotional and you get your body involved, and it's so like, you know, it's literally screaming. So like I was screaming, but like I was internally screaming the whole time. Like my operatic career before recovery was literally me just saying like, why can no one see how much pain I'm in? Why are they telling me that like I'm good at this? I'm not good at this. I want to fucking die.
Don't you see I'm screaming here? And then they're like, no, but you're supposed to be screaming because you're singing opera.
They're like,
right.
Oh, so beautiful. She suffers so beautifully. Until that moment when I got help. So that's the end of the story. We can go back to the start now if you like.
Do you still like, do you like singing opera? Do you miss it? Do you want to do it? Like, is that a thing?
Yeah, that's very much like, that's in a kind of more of the revealed state of my life. Like I did it for, I still sing, like I still do gigs and stuff because it's my job. I have a lot of training in it. I'm a little bit at odds with the industry. It's a strange industry. That's a whole other podcast, talk all about that mess. But like, it's a strange art form, and this is like quite a natural segue into like, you know, my early years, because I had this insane musical gift from a very young age, but I didn't understand why I could learn languages, learn music, memorize scores, perform all this stuff, but I couldn't understand. I couldn't control drinking. Like I couldn't control drugging. Like I couldn't, do any of those things without completely destroying everything that I had, and then have to like scramble back for it really quickly. So like, I always thought that like, I'd soon learn to control my drinking. Like I can memorize Italian operas. And that never happened. So I don't know if I'm going to go back to opera. I would like that to happen, but the past like 2 years that COVID has been going on, and I've not been actively participating in the industry because the industry has not existed. I have found like a lot of, joy in my recovery work, in my, in my meme page, and doing, other things. So because my addiction started so young, and because it was so entrenched in, the music side of things, like a world that I didn't feel like I belonged in, but it was the only thing I had. I didn't really know when opera stopped, I didn't really know who I was. So like, I felt like I was in early sobriety all over again. Like that sort of like, oh my God, like what's my favorite color? Like, right. What do I want to do with my life?
Remind me who I am.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're 11 and you're anorexic, had you been a singer already? Like, is that built in performance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Performance, absolutely. Performance is a drug. Like, performance is absolutely a drug. The adrenaline of people loving you. Like,
is it the performance that's a drug, or the adulation?
Oh my God. Hand in hand, right. Both of them.
It's the thrill. It's the thrill of the doing, and then the love of receiving love.
Right. And it's also like the absolute pure thrill for me was like not having to be myself, because myself was like a small child that was terrified about the rainforest and the ocean. And my person on stage was this like perfect child that everyone loved for doing so well. Or I was playing like a character from like the 17th century. So like that was perfect because I didn't have to worry about my life. Like,
you were some kind of Greta Thunberg meets Pavarotti in a Scottish body.
Oh my God, I have to meme that in my life.
It's something like that, right? It's like, yeah. it's, I mean, like you talk about, I mean, like I'm kind of blown away just because it's like, you don't meet an opera singer who's like this crazy recovery meme star. And, it's like, I went to Yale. Like, it's like to peel the onion here. It's a lot of, it's crazy, but it's like, that's how we all are, right? There's always like something there and you're like, holy shit, I didn't realize that this was your thing. So when you're 11 and you're anorexic and you're 13 and you're like, I can medicate my fear with alcohol. Like, how much did your performerness, like, how much did the alcohol inform the performer or aid the performer? Or like, when did it happen? Who was like, here, this could help? Who did that?
I was such a depressed child that one day someone gave me a cocodamol, which is like an opioid, and they said, here, take this. This is
what is it? What is it?
A cocodamol. So like, it's like our oxycodone, like the really strong ones. They said like, this is an antidepressant. It's going to make you not depressed, and it certainly made me not depressed.
That worked. Yes,
it worked. So yeah, that was when I was about the same time I started drinking as well. So like, and like I like opioids are a huge part of my story because Scotland, and I always thought that like as long as I stayed drinking, that meant I wasn't doing heroin, and that meant that I wasn't
dying as quickly.
Scottish cliche, yeah, right. Exactly, yeah. And I was like, oh, it's fine. Like, and when I always thought like any time that I had an enormous drinking consequence, or any time that like I just ruined an event, or didn't show up to rehearsal, or was sick in the wings during a performance, I'd be like, guys, why are you not proud of me? I'm Scottish and I'm not on heroin. Like, that's a thing. Like, do you know how hard this is for me?
Well, how like, first of all, like, was the opioid in you before the alcohol? What did you like more first? Like, what were your friends doing? Like, what was the scene like?
The scene. Okay, so I grew up actually in a very rural community. I moved to the city when I was about 17, but I grew up in a rural community where there's nothing to do apart from smoke weed, drink cans in a park, and do heroin. And you know, and I didn't fit in when I was a kid. I think we can all relate to that. Like, and being, you know, an elite musician, didn't fit in that world. But then because I like had the music thing, I didn't fit in like with, you know, the other world, because they were like, oh, here's Lauren, like she's clearly a wreck head as well, but like, oh, she's got that music thing, so she's like not like us. And of course that's all in my head, like no one was thinking that, but like in my head that was everything. So like I found like the weirdest group of like stoner skater like drink. I think you know, before the alcohol was more accessible, the alcohol was easier, and the alcohol was more I could hide it in plain sight because everyone was doing it. And then when I realized that when I kind of realized that I could do that with, you know, no people saying like, oh, she's, you know, there's a problem there, which they didn't for a while. It wasn't until I was like 16 that people were like, oh, okay, she's not like having a couple of cans in the party, she's hiding quarts of vodka in her bedside table. I was kind of like, oh, maybe the whole drug thing could work for me as well. And when I got a drug education in school, I don't know if this actually happened, but this is my memory, that they kind of were like, listen, lads, like drugs are everywhere, do them safely, never do acid. Never do acid, because, you know, they told all the stories like, oh, there was that guy that peeled his skin off and you might walk out into the middle of the street. Like, so
or he jumps off a roof because he thinks he can fly.
Yeah.
Right.
So I grew up with a deathly fear of acid. But I remember like when they were teaching us about heroin, when we were quite small children, because they knew that we were going to come across it. And they were like, okay, so like try not to do heroin.
No.
And then I remember
really? Is that's like drug education in Scotland? Is like try not to do heroin.
Like, you know, like, it's not big, it's not clever, like it's progressive, but like, you know, try not to. And I remember putting my hands up and saying like, but what if I'm trying to walk away from drugs and someone just sticks it in my arm? What then? And they're like, they're not going to do that. And I was like, but what if they do? So then,
the hard Scottish questions from the young elite musician. I want to know, how did you become a young elite musician? Like, how did that happen?
I was obsessed with the piano from a young age. So this is a really weird story. My story is full of really weird stories. So I was born with my eardrums the wrong way around. So I couldn't hear very well, / kind of not at all. And I got them fixed when I was 4. And I don't have many memories of this, but I remember just like my parents would tell me like if I heard an airplane, I would start screaming. Because like sound was so scary, and I was sensitive like to the core already, so it was just like, oh my god, it's like the world of sound is terrifying to me. So then when I heard the piano once, and I was like, oh, like this sound doesn't terrify me. So my parents, God bless them, my parents were sheep farmers, they have fuck all money.
Hold on, but you grew up on a sheep farm? Is that real?
That is real. I grew up in a sheep farm.
What does that look like? How does that work? I'm going to keep going down these paths because it's like I've never had an opera singer, sheep farmer, Scottish woman on the show. So I just need to like, you know, quell my curiosity. So forgive me, but I need to know.
Addiction does not discriminate.
No,
Addiction
it certainly does not.
It's coming for the sheep farmers. It's coming for the opera singers. It's very obviously coming for the Scottish people. We are a very sick nation. But I say that with love, and I can say it because I am Scottish. But yeah, like my parents are 8th generation sheep farmers.
So they have sheep right now.
Yeah, they do. They have a ton of sheep. It's tenant farming, so it's like the Lord owns the land, and they hire the land, and they just farm the land with their sheep, and they take the sheep to market, and they sell the sheep, and that's how my lessons were paid for, because they didn't have any money, so they would like butcher sheep and give them to my teachers. So
wow!
Like,
so here's some lamb chops. Teach Lowe's how to sing the high note. To try to break the glass with the high C.
Yeah, basically. So like that was also like a really conflicting thing as well, because like I was always this little charity case, because it was kind of like, you know, like when I went to music school, it was like, oh, she's doing so well, like here's the little sheep farmer girl, and I was like, oh my god, I've been given this enormous opportunity and I cannot show up to class sober. What is wrong with me? You know? So but yeah, like rural communities are really, really interesting. And I used to kind of play it down because I thought that it took away from like my street cred, you know, because you want to be
No,
like
it adds
sexy,
to it.
city.
No, are you kidding me? Nothing sexier than a sheep farmer. Are you crazy? Don't even think about it. There's nothing sexier than a sheep farmer.
Okay.
Now, when did you know that you were an elite musician, or was it obvious, or did it take a ton of work, or is that a stupid question?
Honestly, I didn't know that I was good at music until I started teaching music, because I always thought because I just thought that it was this weird thing that I knew how to do. Because I never I was, you know, when you're in a musical world, like you practice for hours. It's obsessive. It's all encompassing. There's cult like aspects to the culture of music, and that was just a world that I accepted. I was like, oh, okay, this is my place in the world. I guess I'm going to do it. And then I started teaching music, and I found out that people did it for fun. And I found out that people really enjoyed it. And I found out that like not everyone could like instantly do it as soon as they started. So that's something that I'm starting to realize right now, that I'm kind of like, oh my God, like I actually have this thing that like not everyone has. Like that's really bizarre. And like music is for everyone. Like music is for absolutely everyone. And like my path right now is actually kind of finding like, how do I enjoy music? Because for a while it was this thing that went so hand in hand with my addiction, that like every part of my pain is every part of my story is wrapped up in what production was I doing at the time, you know, or what huge emotion was I hiding from in my perfectionism around music,
or the fear. I mean, it's like this big stage. I mean, like my heroin addiction came in, like I was a hardcore pothead, but my heroin addiction really came in when I got like a TV deal, like, and it was like the pressure of a TV deal and the money of a TV deal meant that I could afford heroin in my mind, and it medicated my fear. And I'm sure from production to production, like it ramped up the consumption.
Totally. And it's a fear of failure, and it's a fear of success. Because like if I got success, like I wouldn't know what to do with it. I wanted to die in a hotel room in Philadelphia. Like I don't want to be successful. Like that's terrifying. But at the same time, it's all I want. Like I had a situation where I was scouted to audition for Christine on Broadway in Phantom of the Opera, like one of the longest running musical theaters of all time. Like the lead role, like someone scouted me from a competition in Memphis, and they found my details. They were like, please come audition for us. We'd love to have you. And I flew to New York from Indiana, where I was living at the time. And I remember like going past this like shitty barbecue place, and I was like, oh, like I need a shot of vodka for this. Like I need a shot of vodka to get that high. Like I'm not going to get it without the vodka. So I got my shot of vodka. Like, and also who gets vodka in a barbecue place? This girl. So I didn't go to the audition, and I told people I went to the audition, and I was like, oh, it went well. I just don't think it was the right fit. I just didn't fucking go. Like, because I just sat and got drunk in that shitty barbecue place on barbecue place vodka, because I was just terrified. Like, what happened if it went wrong?
And what happens if it goes right?
What happened if it goes right? And you know, it's that being trapped. It's that absolutely just being so trapped. Yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, like I want to hear about the day to day when your alcoholism is developing and you're doing from production to production.
So I was absolutely a morning drinker. When I found out that that you could drink in the morning, that there was no rule that the police wouldn't come to my door if I started drinking vodka in the morning, I was just like, oh, thank fuck. Like I have cracked the code to the universe.
Do you remember the first time you were like, I can drink vodka in the morning?
Yeah, it was in master's. No, it wasn't in my master's degree. I remember in my master's degree that it became like I realized I could buy handles in America, like huge big fuck off handles of it. And I like that just sat on my fridge, and that was like Laws's like morning coffee. And it was actually in Glasgow when I was in my undergraduate. And I started with whiskey in the morning, because I was like, it's a morning drink. It's nice and toasty and warm. So I just like put it in my coffee like every normal person. And, you know, the hours were really, really long when you're in music school. and there's lots of things, you know, you go to acting classes, you go to movement classes, you go to dance classes, you go to your history classes and everything like that. And it was just so much. I was 18. I was already like completely maladjusted to life because I'm from a fucking sheep farm and my only hobby was like drinking tins in a park and like desperately not trying to do heroin. So it was about my undergraduate when I was about 18 years old, and it just became, you know, it was like an every now and then again thing with whiskey, and then, you know, I just became a morning vodka drinker because it was just easy. Like that's how you deal with like a really stressful thing.
The question
like,
that's going on in my mind is like, on one hand, it's like you start using and drinking to cope with the pressure of performance and the anxiety around being good or whatever. But at the same time, I'm sure the music kept you out of being more of a train wreck also, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there's a shitload of people who had no gift, and rather than going to perform and practice and do all that stuff, they just drank. Like, do you think the music was more of the thing that brought you in or the thing that brought you out?
You know, it's so like right at the start when we were talking about like, you know, alcohol really helped my anorexia because I switched over. Like, music was this strange like harm reduction for me because it's and that's when I realized that like my drinking wasn't like other people, because like I still love music. Like it's everything to me, but I was sacrificing it entirely for the pursuit of alcohol and drugs. And it was really like just these warring parts of myself. And, you know, sometimes one side would win and the other side would lose. And sometimes the other side would win and the other side would lose. And I think that like conflict and that fight, I'm just really, so I got sober when I was 25, which is relatively young. And I am so grateful for that, because like, I don't want to know what would have happened if I kept that fight up, because the fight was exhausting. But like those strange conflicting parts of myself were what was strangely, for as miserable and painful as it was what was kind of saving me until I could find something better to save me, something more, you know, less devastating and traumatizing to save me.
When did recovery even become a thought in your head? Was it just from these people at Yale, or was it lurking in the distance behind the debauchery?
I got sober by myself when I was 19.
Did you think you were an alcoholic then? Like when you're a teenager, were you like, I'm a fucking alcoholic, I'm a drug addict? Did you ever think of yourself in those terms at that point?
Yeah, I deeply knew. Like, I deeply knew, and my life was just a testament to trying to deny it. Like, I really, really deeply knew it was. And being a young woman, you know, because then alcohol was so normalized in Scottish society that, like, you know, we had like our designated alcoholics, you know, like the old men, the homeless men, like, and I was like a young woman with everything going for her, and I knew about it, and I would make all of these excuses for myself, but part of me, and that's one of the functions that I want my page to serve. Like, I really want my page to serve the purpose that, like, addiction does not discriminate, and, like, you don't have to look like anything to have this thing. So I did know, and in retrospect, when I got sober by myself when I was 19, which did not last long, I went psychotic. Like, I actually experienced a lot of psychosis because I was no longer medicating myself with things that, you know, that made my life bearable. And I just thought, like, oh, that's my mental health issues. But in retrospect, I'm thinking, like, God, like, it ran that deep, that young. Like, it's really undeniable now.
Was it withdrawal? Like, what was the 19 getting sober look like?
Oh, so I had, I went to Italy with some friends to sing some opera, and on the last night, I got drunk. I met some, you know, strange Italian men in an alley, took some strange Italian pills in an alley, and my friends found me. I was absolutely catatonic. They, you know, had to take me home, and it was someone's 21st birthday. Like, it was two people's 21st birthday. They had a joint 21st birthday. What was it all about? Me. So and my friends kind of sat me down, and they were kind of like, we don't want to deal with you anymore. This has happened too many times. You have to stop. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I'll get sober.
So wait, you were the only drug addict alcoholic in your opera group, basically.
I was the designated alcoholic drug addict. And in sobriety, I have found other opera singers who are sober.
So you were like Greta Thunberg, Pavarotti meets Bukowski Burroughs. That's what we're dealing with here.
And we're just going to keep layering these.
Yes.
This is a perfect personality chart. I love it. Yeah, and I went back to Glasgow where I was living at the time, and this part of my life is such a blur. There was a lot of withdrawal psychosis, and I would like be in corridors, and I would feel like people putting their hands on my shoulders. I would see like people running down the corridor in front of me, though there were no people there. I would be walking home, and then like an overpass would like come down on top of me. I would always have visions of the Grim Reaper coming for me, and then I started this dialogue with the Grim Reaper that I had to kill the Grim Reaper in order to save the world. Still, it's just me wanting to save the world as always. And I'd make these like demented lists of like why I shouldn't like kill myself, why I shouldn't die, and they were like demented. It was kind of like, I can't die because I've not fucked Trent Reznor yet. I can't die because I don't weigh 98 pounds yet.
Right.
These are my priorities. So
goals.
Cool. I still haven't fucked Trent Reznor, which is devastating to me.
He's still around. He's a musician. You should send him a tape.
Trent, if you're listening, I live in East London. Like, I've loved you since I was 13. I unironically adore all of your music. You know that Trent
Reznor is a hardcore Dopey listener. He writes me after every show. He's like, Dave, you're doing an amazing job.
A tiny bit of me there like leapt with joy because like I was willing to believe that for a second. Yeah. If I am willing to believe that I could fuck Trent Reznor, I'm willing to believe that I could stay sober today. That's going to be my mantra.
I believe you could fuck Trent Reznor more than I believe Trent Reznor's ever listened to Dopey. So we'll keep it there.
So yeah.
I have faith. I have faith in your plan. But I mean, as somebody with like one of the most important and compelling addiction recovery meme pages, you can accomplish what you set your mind to. And if that's on the list, I mean, it's not an impossibility.
Yeah, my priorities have changed in sobriety, man. I used to want to be an opera singer. Now I just want to
fuck Trent Reznor like an animal.
Like an animal. Oh my god, that song. Oh my god, that song came on the tube yesterday. Like not on the tube, like I was on the tube and that song came on my shuffle, and I had like that's so funny. This is coming up. This has obviously been in my mind, and like I was reflecting back on that time of my life because like one of my things, like when I wasn't like drinking, like one of my huge vices is sex, man. Like this year for me, like. I have my sobriety date is the 6th of March 2018. So,
say that again slowly.
The 6th of March 2018. So I'm coming up on 4 years, but it was only like this year that like I realized like, oh my God, like when I start, sex like puts me straight back into the addict mind. So I've had to really work on that this year. It's been an absolute nightmare. But the best and most beautiful thing that's ever happened to me, choose recovery. But like it's been gnarly. So like when Closer came on my shuffle yesterday, I was like, oh my God, like I was a fucking cretin. Like it was not.
But let's talk about that for a second because the door is open. Like when sex, I've had it where sex becomes drugs. Kind of because you're gone. You know what I mean? You can have sex and be gone. You can pursue it, and it's very similar because it's a way out of your thinking, and it's also like crazy dopamine fucking hits.
Yeah, 100%.
And sex is a big topic on Brutal Recovery, which is one of the reasons that it has a good different feeling because you're always willing to go there. And I think, like, as an audience, I appreciate it. As I am your audience, I appreciate it. But I also want to know, like, what was sex addiction or sex in recovery? Like, how did you manage it? How did you know it was bad? Like describe that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally I totally identify as a sex addict, sex and love addict. I'm really now that I've got a year's worth of. Not abstinence, but it's like some recovery there, like a teeny tiny bit. I'm like, food and sex recovery are weird because abstinence is like, you know what I mean? It's like, did you ever go to SLA or you don't go to SLA? Yeah, I do.
Do you still go to slaw?
Yeah, it's really important for me. And it's a program that like, because my spiritual rock bottom came when my slash shit got bad. Like it was, I was in a relationship when I got sober. So like there was, it felt like that was like, there was a lid on it at the very least.
An American bloke?
He was an American boy. So it was, there was like this lid on it. Like I felt like I could control it. And God bless him. Like he got so much of my crazy sex energy, like my obsession around it. Cause he was the only thing keeping the lid on it. So like when we broke up and that lid like flew off, like I, went on this rampage. And I remember there was like one night that, one of the main things that I love about my recovery is like the small but significant differences. Like I go to bed on time, I take my makeup off, I, drink lots of water. All of that stuff's really important to me but like there was this one night that I went home with this guy and he was an absolute, my good friend Nicholas says that he was a haunted pencil of a man with the face of a grave robber, that's the word. And he was
wait, what? Nicholas, give me the description again, please.
A haunted pencil of a man with the face of a grave robber.
It sounds very, very, very like a prize catch.
My type.
Right.
So he, and I was calling Nicholas as I was getting ready to go on this, and he was like, Lauren, I literally would rather that you go see Jack the Ripper right now. Do not go see this man. And I was like, okay, cute. Like I just hung up on him and went. And I remember thinking, like, leaving his house, like, did I accidentally get drunk? And I didn't. I did not drink a single fluid. But I remember like feeling, like drunk. Like I was not in my body. I was not in my mind. I couldn't remember the past hour of my life. And then I went, back to my house at like 3 a.m. I like slept in my makeup. I didn't drink any water. And I called my friend at like 6 o'clock. Like I feel like suicidal right now. Like I feel in active addiction. Like I've crossed a barrier. And like he was the final of a long January rampage, and it just reached that kind of breaking point. But another dimension of my illness in that arena is the crazy fantasy and the future tripping and all of the stuff associated with like finding someone and being okay, like
being loved,
that's my tranquilizer, that's my anesthetic. Like if someone just like, I can glom someone onto me that will love me forever, I won't have to take care of myself,
and I'll be okay.
I'll always take care of, and I'll be okay. Yeah, like the complete refusal to believe that I could be okay by my own. And like when it like this last year of my recovery has probably been the most profound, because like I finally got into the weeds of that. Like, and it was really, really, really painful, because I had to be confronted with the prospect of being alone. But then I remembered that like I'm in recovery, like whether I want to be or not, I will never be alone, because there is a bunch of lunatics out there just like me that know exactly how I feel. And how lucky is that? Like, how amazing is that? And
well, they need you. They need you just like you need them. I mean, the thing that I hear at my meeting that I used to find to be very cheesy was I go to the liquor store by myself, but we get better together.
Oh,
like all that
little
stuff.
Platitudes like that. They do it for me. They totally do it for me. And that was the stuff that I used to like, cringe at and roll my eyes at before. But now I'm just like, no, like that's it. Like, I can't deny that. And the more that I denied that, the more psychotic I was. There's a term, like, yeah, it was, and it's beautiful. It really, really is beautiful. And I think that, Brutal Recovery becoming kind of like a community, like seeing people in the comments saying like, hi, I'm 3 days sober, I can't cope with my life. And someone saying like, hi, I just hit 6 months and I feel a little bit better. Or someone saying like, hi, I'm 7 years. Like, have you tried this? I think that those little things, like I had no idea that Brutal Recovery would turn into that. But even like those tiny little moments are so important. And to watch that happen in a little online space for unhinged people it's perfect. I love us so much.
Well, it's an imprint that you get to make, and then it ripples out. But when you get abstinent and you get sober from alcohol and sex becomes the ism, like what was, like, how does that happen? Like, and I mean, like I you know, I think when I got into recovery, like I dated one person and then I got back together with my daughter's mother. And like, you know what I mean? Like I was set in terms of there wasn't dating. It wasn't that ocean of chaos of dating and stuff. But when you talk about sex addiction in recovery, it supplanted the alcoholism.
Yeah. You know, because it's never about the sex, really. I remember very little of the sex I've ever had in my life because it was never about the sex. It was about the self-esteem. It was about the
filling the hole.
Filling that God-shaped hole, man. And you know what? Here's another dimension of wellness. Every single time that I would hook up with this, I would binge afterwards. Like I would order like £50 worth of like frozen yogurt to my house and just like slam it into my face. Like it's not working. It's not working.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's, you know, and like that's, yeah, it's really just substitution. Like it was just that substitution for me. And like, what's that? It's another platitude, like deal with the shark that's like closest to the boat. And like the shark that was closest to the boat for me was like drugs and alcohol. Like that was killing me quickly. And when my relationship ended and the lid flew off and my sex addiction said, hiya, like it ebbs and flowed. And sometimes I was on top of it and sometimes I wasn't. And sometimes it was, you know, life ruining. And sometimes I got into a good place with it. But like it's, you know, the only thing that helped, or not the only thing that helped, but like the first thing that helped was like being honest about it. Cause like I always thought that like it was just a cute and quirky part of my personality. Like I'm just this Hellion slut princess, so cute. And then I was like, oh, actually this is ruining my peace of mind. And like God did not drag me out of the fucking sea to destroy my life with emotional vampires.
Right,
yeah,
right.
So,
Now
yeah.
That's interesting to me. Like, I think that, I mean, that's the deal though. Like we're just like, we're like on some conveyor belt and it's like this thing, then this thing, then this thing. And it's like, but then the fucked up thing or the question that pops into my head is like, brutal recovery is this, yes, it's this beautiful, it's funny, it's smart, it's a community, it's all of those things. But then it's also us like on our phone seeing who liked it and what does that do for us. And like, so how does like that shark coming up to the boat, like how do you cope with that when it's professional kind of thing?
So I have lots of boundaries in place over this already. I think I will have to place more. The main thing that changed for me is I never wanted to talk to my sponsor or my network.
And when I said this, I picked up the phone because they didn't see.
There's the visual.
Yeah, sorry.
You know, I really never wanted to talk to my sponsor or my network about it because I thought that it was like silly and I thought that it was fun. And I was kind of like, oh, I don't want it to like make it seem that, you know, I don't want this to be an issue. So like,
you want to protect it kind of the way like people protect their drugs or their alcohol too.
100%. So like
it also is your superpower. Like opera singing was your superpower. This is your superpower. I protect dope. I'm the same way with Dopey, and I don't want anyone to take it away from me because it's so precious to me. You know,
absolutely. So yeah. Oh my! I relate to that so much. I'm so glad you said that. I feel so validated right now. Like, so I eventually like had to talk to my network and my sponsor and my therapist about it, and just, you know, so we never get to the point that I'm like performing recovery, you know, so that I'm never, you know, making it insincere or disingenuous so that I can rake in more likes and get more love. I said at the start, like I've always just wanted the most love. So I've turned off notifications. I've turned off like seeing the number of likes. If ever I get a DM that is going to kind of disturb my peace a little bit, I have like an instant delete policy.
What would be a DM? What would be a DM that, and for people who don't know, that's direct message. My dad's like, what's a DM? For like, what's a DM that could disturb your peace of mind?
Do you know, I get a lot of strange DMs. Like, you know, some people say, you're not an alcoholic, you just have BPD, or you're not an alcoholic, you just have autism. And I'm like, wow, are you a doctor and do you know me? No. Or some people say like, what you're doing is disgraceful. How can you laugh at this stuff? This is killing people. Always comes from non-addicts, funnily enough. So, I mean, and bless them for they do not know. but yeah, it's just like anything like that, anything that's a little bit confrontational, anything that's, you know, someone questioning my validity to be in recovery spaces, anything that's like people, you know, like people love to pick a fight on the internet. Like that is a fact that will permeate the ages. And I love to pick a fight on the internet. So I know that I need to not do that. And that means that, because like I find myself getting into, you know, because I talk about things like trauma and I talk about things like, you know, psychiatric diagnoses and stuff. And if, you know, those are some things that people are like, that has nothing to do with addiction. And so I'm like, okay, but these are the same people that are telling me that like, I'm not really an alcoholic. So, and that's such a small subsection. Like, I want to make it really, really clear that's such a small subsection of, you know, the people that are in my DMs. But like, if I'm engaging with them, if I'm going into a spiral where like we're both utterly convinced of our own rightness, I'm not helping anyone. I'm not messaging back the person that's saying, I've got 3 days sober and I don't know what to fucking do. You know, so
it's taking up the space. It's taking up the valuable space where you could be doing somebody some good.
Right. If I'm obsessed, if I'm replying to a DM indignantly convinced of my own correctness, that's not a DM I need to be replying to, because I know what's true and I know what's right and God sees me as I am. So that's all I need to do.
What about getting high on likes?
Yeah, that was really, really, really hard. Because if I have a meme that does well, I'm having a good day.
Right.
So like I've had to really just kind of surrender the outcome. I can get a little bit, I used to, not so much anymore. I used to get a little bit obsessed with if a meme hit 1,000 likes, like in the first hour, that meant it was good. And I could be like, okay.
It means you're good. It means I'm a good person.
It means I'm
right.
okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm getting the most love. But what I've realized is that when I'm trying to be funny, I'm not funny. Like, I'm only funny when I'm being myself. So, like, if I'm engineering responses, if I'm engineering things to get the most like, and this works in, like, real life as well. Like, if I'm putting on a fake persona so that people love me, it's not going to last.
And it's not going to serve you.
It's not going to serve me, yeah. So, if ever I'm trying to, like, alter myself for more likes, I get fewer likes. And if I find myself like getting like really, you know, obsessive over like, ooh, my median is low or my growth is low, like I just really have to check it. Like I have to kind of do like some opposite actions. Like how much am I participating in my enjoyment of life? How much am I participating in my recovery off the page? How much am I participating in my platonic friendships, and just kind of, you know, getting the balance there. But, you know, I'm absolutely not perfect. That's what I want to show with my page. It's like, I am in recovery, but I am chronically imperfect, and that's okay. So long as I can deal with the consequences.
Sure.
And it's, I go backwards and forwards with it. And it's really perception based as well. Like I really, really have to kind of like just, you know, shift my perception of what is meaningful and what is good. And then I have to say, Lauren, I'm just straight up just giving my real name away so many times right now. But like,
you never said Lowe's. You said Lauren like 20 times, but that's okay. It's pretty close.
Oh my God. Yeah, just like saying, you know, is it that deep? Is it really that deep? You know, if I get a like, that means I made one person laugh today.
No, but I see it another way. I see it. It's like I can like kind of pseudo shame you for getting high on likes, and I get high on likes too. But like really the point is, it's like, let's say it's 1961 or 62 and you're selling records. It's like there's nothing wrong with selling a lot of records and feeling good about it. Like that's not that what? That's not a bad thing. It's like this is your business. It's like it's okay to feel good that you had a good day. Like if I sell a party for my stupid deli job, it makes me feel good, and there's nothing really wrong with that. I mean, it doesn't need to make me feel like, okay, I'm not a bad person. Like and I suffer the same thing, you know, but it's not black and white. You know what I mean? It's like we can feel good. I can feel good if Dopey does well, if an episode does well, or if I put, I mean, like my fucking Instagram presence is so sad, like, and it's like, it's just like, but it's like, it's all relative, right? It's like, I'm sad to you, you're sad to like Greta Thunberg or Pavarotti, you know what I mean? It's like, it's all relative, but the fact of the matter is, I think that we can't live for likes, but it's okay to enjoy them. Right?
It's okay to enjoy them. Absolutely. Like, my main peace in life is not coming from like eating cupcakes, but like if I eat a cupcake and feel good about it, well, until like the next shark closest to my boat is food, which like it's probably coming.
No, I'm sick. I'm sick with fucking food. I'm like,
really?
I'm sick with food at night. It's like, it's madness. Like my day is difficult. Last night, yesterday, I worked from the morning until the night. There's a kid from my meeting, right? And he's like on trial in Ohio and Florida for dealing fentanyl and stolen merchandise. And he had to fly to Florida today to deal with this stolen merchandise thing. And I was like, and I had been planning on interviewing him for months and I never did. So I was like, fuck it. So I ran out and I interviewed him for like 2 hours, this crazy story of like fentanyl dealing and body brokering and all this crazy fucking shit. And I get home, it's like almost 8. My little daughter is just eating dinner. I have to put her to bed. I've been going since 9 in the morning. The second I'm done, I'm literally shoving anything with chocolate into my mouth in bulk, until I know that like, and I used to do it in waves. Like I used to have like maybe 3 waves of binging on chocolate in a night. Now I just do the 1 wave, but the 1 wave is way too much. And I do it like, I don't get anything out of it except for in that moment, just like the sex, just like drugs, alcohol. And then afterwards, I do feel shitty. In the morning, it's in my prayers. Like in the morning, I say, please help me not shove all this stuff into my mouth tonight. But come 9 o'clock tonight, I'm going to be like, come on. Like, and I'm nervous about being pre-diabetic and all these things. Like, and I haven't been to the doctor in fucking 5 years. Ooh. I know. It's like a perfect storm. I know. So that's my food issues. Like, what does your food issues look like?
Oh my God, my food issues today.
And I don't mean to overshare with you. I just want you to get a sense.
I'm here for it. Like, yeah, I love it. Like, I talked. So I have like the anorexia bulimia pipeline. Like, I started anorexic, and then I had, I have not had a bulimic relapse in about probably 9 months or so. But like I thought that, I started bulimia when I was 15. So good. Thought I invented it. Like I was like, oh my God, I can.
Another superpower.
Fill myself. Yeah, my superpower is bulimia. And then when I got sober, like one of the, I got some bulimia recovery, and then I've had some spotty moments with it as I go. But yeah, like for me, funnily enough, so I've started a podcast recently with my friend Rebecca Rush. Sorry, you can't see the video, but I've just like smudged my makeup here. Just for context for people listening, why I was so upset there. My beautiful winged eyeliners are ruined. I started a podcast with my friend Rebecca Rush called Brutal Vulnerability. Where we get like really brutally vulnerable about, things in recovery, things in, just being a fucking recovering human being from this prison planet. And one of the first 3 episode arc we did was on food. We did an episode on anorexia, we did an episode on bulimia, and we did an episode on food addiction. And it was researching that was one of the most challenging things, because I really had to go into my own food shit and how much I do self-medicate with foods. And I also self-medicate with restrictions sometimes. Like when I'm wanting to control my life, when I'm wanting to control my feelings, my surroundings, I'm just kind of like, oh, what's one thing I control? Like I cannot eat today. And it's, oh my God, even like this is so like, as I said, like a wee while ago, like sober dating right now. And like, I'm trying to sober date, which means meeting people in public rather than at their house, getting to know someone before sitting on their face. And it's like, you got to go for dinner. And I'm like, Oh my God, like sitting opposite someone with a plate of food when you've had a history of anorexia, bulimia, but also compulsive eating, which is in direct relation to sex, and you're on a date, that is a fucking nightmare. Like, it is
So what do you do?
hard.
Like you should probably not do dinner.
Well,
Go for a walk. Does a walk count? Can you go for a walk?
No. And
that's not a date. A date isn't a walk.
I want everyone hear me when I say my friends hate me for this because they love a walk and a coffee as a date. I do not. I will not be walked. I am not a Labrador.
What about a museum? Museum in the evening. Museum evening date.
That sounds nice. I don't know.
How do you cope with being eating disorder at a dinner date then without alcohol and like probably not trying to have sex on the first date? Like what's happening in that situation for you?
I mean, just practice, really. Like, just practicing doing it. Like, because conversely, like, I love the idea of going out for dinner. I love the idea, like, I'm a fucking princess. Like, I love getting my nails done. I love getting my hair done. Like, I've become really fucking feminine this year as I've, like, found myself.
Nice.
So, like, I love sitting down and talking. I don't want to walk because I don't want to mess my hair up. I don't want to go out into the elements because I don't want my makeup to run. Like, I want to sit in beautiful lighting and be admired by someone. And it's been challenging. Like, I did go out for dinner last night on a date, actually. And I remember, like, I was thinking, like, with him, like, oh my God, like, he's really, really, really good to eat food with because he was just like a really casual person, and I couldn't finish like what I'd ordered, like, because I was so stressed by eating in front of someone. So I was like, oh, I'm full, do you want to finish this? And he was like, yeah, I'll finish this. And I was like, oh, this is so informal. Yeah, nice. So I've pegged him as someone that's good to eat food with because he'll finish my meals when I get stressed, because I don't want food waste because I'm an environmentalist.
Was it a good date? Was it a first date?
It was a third date, actually. Yeah,
third date. That sounds like highly exciting.
Yeah, it was good because it's all practice. Like my first dates with people, like I call myself a one date wonder because like a lot of the time I don't get a second date, but it's because I need practice. It's because I need practice being myself. I need practice like in this arena. I can't expect to be perfect at it straight away. I'm a delusional fantasist, but I'm not delusional enough to believe that I'm going to just meet someone and they're going to instantly be my soulmate. Like, no, I need to practice being a normal fucking human being. And also like being the weirdo that I am, like, just getting that like balance right. So it's all practice. And like, that's what people ask me this all the time. I think this is like number 3 ask question on the page. Like, how do I date sober? And honestly, I think it's just practice. Like
everything is just practice. So sex after the third date or no sex after the third date?
My ideal is 6 dates. And I sometimes fall short of that ideal.
Did you sit on the face sitting last night or no face sitting?
No, there was no face sitting last night.
All right. Well, this
I was a good girl last night.
I think this has been awesome. I think there are so many. I think that we're going to keep the door open for the next appearance of Brutal Recovery because we didn't go down the drug hole, but I had such a good time chatting with you.
Oh yeah, like. Oh my God! We have scratched the surface, my friend.
my daughter just slipped a note under the door that says, "Can I have lunch soon?" So I think that's going to be the end of our interview. She has COVID, so I haven't sat in the room with my daughter and since what's today? Today's Tuesday. Since Friday. So I have to go make her lunch, or I'm a terrible father. But I think like you're awesome. This has been so fun for me. I hope you had a good time. I always ask, did you have a good time on the show?
I did have a good time, and I'll finish on this. I was so stressed about doing this.
Why?
Because Dopey gets like actual like celebrities, and we talked about this, and I was like, listen, like I'm just a wee scumbag from Scotland, and you said, oh, we're all just a wee scumbag from somewhere. So that put me like totally at ease, and yeah, I've had a whale of a time.
That's good.
Whale of a time.
Now I want Brutal Recovery Dopey memes. I want a fucking opera, a Dopey opera thing. Okay. and I want to like go on your podcast. It's called Brutal Vulnerability.
Yes, Brutal Vulnerability. It is a podcast where me and Rebecca, we just talk about the things that polite ladies don't discuss. So
like sitting on faces after the second date,
like,
perhaps.
Sitting on faces, I think that's even been covered so far.
I believe
so
it.
If you're all about very, very recovery orientated women that don't have a filter, talking about things with lots of scientific research and lived experience, check out our podcast. I'm very excited for it.
Well, I'm excited for it too. And thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. That was quite a treat to have Lowe's of Scotland, England, Yale, Brutal Recovery on the show. Erin, ask Erin, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I could listen to her talk all day. Her voice is so pretty, and I love a Scottish accent. I know you talked about accents a bit, and Scottish is like, it's my favorite accent. I really think so. And I also agree. I don't really love a South African accent. Sorry, South Africans.
I don't know if it's like I was thinking about all the accents I put down in this interview, and I stand by them.
Yeah.
You know, South African, it's like, I don't know. There's just maybe it's because of apartheid. Maybe that's a piece of me disliking the South African accent. Is that possible?
Isn't Elon Musk from South Africa?
I don't know.
Why do I not know that?
I don't know like what it is about an accent that bothers. You know what I mean? Like that would bother somebody. Like I like a Southern accent. I like a Texas accent. I like I love a Boston accent.
Really?
I love it. Wicked chowder.
Awesome.
Wicked awesome. Let's get some chowder. I love it. I live for it.
In Massachusetts, like every direction is like, you got to go past the old Dunkin' Donuts.
But that's great. I mean, the Boston accent, when Chris was alive, I did the Boston accent all the time. Because also when I waited tables, I would encounter accents and I would be so bored during waiting tables that I would do the accents with the other waiters.
Right.
And I was never good at it. I was just incredibly enthusiastic about it.
You tune in.
It was fun, and I would mock them, and then I would mock Chris, and so yeah, I feel bad that I don't like the South African accent. I don't love the Australian, the New Zealand. Although, like I said in the thing, Dave Masculani has an accent that I can live on.
Right.
I could have him narrate my my memoir. He might do my audiobook if he's up for it. I thought that she was just. I mean, she's brilliant, and it comes out. Making memes, it's like people say, oh, you should just make memes.
It's so much harder than you think.
I can't make memes.
Neither can I.
And she has a real unique meme voice, but obviously she has a real unique voice, like, and a brain that processes things in a way that the memes just come out of her.
She's smart. You know, I mean, she's smart and she's funny and obviously very talented. I was blown away by her story and related to a lot of things she said. Like, she was really young when she started her journey, as I was, and I totally related to that idea of just trying to do anything to get out of your body. Her first thing was like anorexia. So I related to so much of what she said. I understand that thing that she talked about, that like alcoholism gave her relief from the anorexia and relief from this desire to like shrink away, because that's what heroin did for me. It gave me relief from like wanting to kill myself.
Right. Heroin just gave me relief from like worrying.
The anxiety.
Yeah. And I think that it's also interesting, like in her case, the way it was all wrapped up in her kind of not her success, but her ability and the pressure of being a young person who's competing and who is elite. Like, I was not an elite anything. Like, now I'm an elite podcaster.
Yes.
But I was never an elite Were you an elite in equestrian?
I was an elite equestrian.
You were?
Yeah.
Elite.
Yeah.
Did you ever jump through a flaming hoop?
No. That's not a thing in A-circuit jumpers courses.
I think that could make you an elite. But horses would probably fear.
No, I mean, I was on the track to go to New Jersey and train to try out for the Olympics. Like, that was my path. I had George Morris, who used to, I mean, now he's like been ousted from equestrian sports because of like, you know, inappropriate behavior. But I was supposed to go and train there. He was my trainer's trainer and came and scouted me. And, you know, it was a thing. And horses kind of saved me for a while. And then I had an injury and drugs kind of saved me. I didn't write that much about horses in my book. I had a chapter that I went into it. But They were a big part of my life.
Maybe the third book is just heroin and horses.
Heroin and horses.
Flaming hoops.
And some people call heroin horse. So
I know. Do you think like I feel like I find and I don't know anything about equestrian stuff, but when I watch it, I find it to be incredibly boring. Now, and I see you making a face, but like, and I was making a joke about jumping through a flaming hoop because horses probably fear fire and could be burned and there could be a lot of bad stuff. But I bet you they could really spruce up the entertainment value in an equestrian show somehow. Like, I feel like speed, like longer stretches, like kind of like galloping and jumping and maybe jumping over streams.
Well, that's
something
what
like
they
that.
do in it's called eventing. And in eventing, there's a cross country, a steeplechase is basically that. A steeplechase is speed over really treacherous cross country
I like
fences.
the sound of that.
It's very dangerous for the horse and rider. I know people that do it, but like it's something my mind with horses is that they should be doing something that they also spiritually enjoy. And you can tell when a horse likes doing something or doesn't. The racing industry is a little problematic to me. I think even show jumping can be problematic, but there are a lot of sort of rules and safeguards in place. And I'm a big proponent of like natural horsemanship and things that really put the health and safety of the animal first.
Wow. That's a mouthful. That's good. Me and Susan went to the aquarium last week. And like we caught the end of the sea lion show, and they're talking about training the animals, and it's like, why does a seal need to be trained at all?
No,
like,
it doesn't.
Like it's like when I was a kid, I was like, this is amazing. This seal is going to learn how to do so many important things. But now you know that the seal doesn't benefit from this training.
No,
do you think
it's just entertainment, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I guess I'm sure there are aquariums that rescue animals, but.
And then enslave them.
Yeah.
When we went on vacation years ago to the Bahamas, I want to say, to Atlantis, and we had the opportunity to swim with a dolphin. And I've always loved dolphins.
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to swim with one, but we did. And the feeling I got was that the dolphin was an alien slave, like an alien that now is a slave to us. And like that's the worst. And I would imagine the horse thing kind of probably feels a little like that here and there.
I think it can for sure. I mean, I think that there are all different ways that people keep horses, but I think that it's again like I think that like part of the beauty of like horses and human beings is that there can be a really symbiotic relationship where there is nonverbal communication. That's why. You know, I know people joke about like equine therapy and rehabs and stuff. But
who jokes about equine therapy?
I don't know.
And
I've
rehab?
heard people like make jokes. Haven't you made jokes about that?
No, but I mention equine therapy on every show.
So the reason that it can be so helpful is that they're prey animals, right? So everything they do is reading energy. And part of what happens with somebody who's been through trauma and a horse is there is a nonverbal way where they learn to trust each other. And it's a two-way street because to gain trust, you also have to give trust.
What does a prey animal mean? That other animals prey on them?
Yeah, so they're constantly attuned to their environment and to the energy of the people and other animals around them.
But in North America, like what was preying on horses? Bears? Mountain lions? Like what was the horses? What was preying on a horse? And there are no wild horses in Africa. There's zebras. Like where are horses?
There are still wild horses in America.
Right, but there's no fucking giant monster that's going to eat them.
Right, but I mean historically.
But what animal is feeding on horses?
Now I don't know. Historically, probably wolves. I would think. Wolves would probably be wolves, coyotes, like any kind of something that run fast and like. You could take a horse down by damaging their leg, and then they're fucked.
Interesting. I didn't think Dopey was going to go down this path today. So what else you got about brutal recovery?
So there are a couple of things. I mean, of course, it was like fascinating. She had her rock bottom at Yale. I mean, how many people can say that? I also, I think a lot of people can understand they may not be opera singers performing on a stage, but I think a lot of people can understand that idea that they're doing something where they don't have to be themselves. All through like my active addiction, it was about me playing certain roles for the people in my life, right? I was a literal actress at different times in my life and an actress just in my everyday life. So I understood like what she meant by that. And I think a lot of people who are performers of any sort can relate to that.
Like escaping
Yeah,
through the
escaping into
right.
a performance, right? Then they don't have to be themselves. I thought it was really funny when you said that there's nothing sexier than a sheep farmer. I have that in my notes.
Yeah, I was thinking about editing that part out.
It was funny though. And this one I had to write down because I was like, oh yeah, I know that guy. When she said she was talking about sex addiction and somebody she was going to meet, and her friend said to her, he's a haunted pencil of a man with the face of a grave robber.
And she says that in the most amazing voice.
It's so good. And I was like, oh yeah, I totally know that guy. And I thought what was also important when she talked about sex addiction is that it does become a drug, and it's all about like looking for that dopamine hit, the same way which you also led into a discussion of like social media and likes. And I think, 100% we can relate to that. Like this thing of like, you want the likes, you want the validation, you want to be the one that like is, quote unquote winning at this, right?
Well, at anything really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because where does one thing, like where is competition healthy and where is it unhealthy?
Right.
Like she's in the like business.
Yes.
Like why can't she be lauded for getting likes?
Right.
Anyway, but then again, I don't like the fact that if my Instagram doesn't hit 100, I want to kill myself.
Right.
Like I don't like that.
No, I totally know. I totally know what you mean.
And I love her sex addiction stuff because she's just putting herself out there.
Totally. And it's something that like women get shamed for so much that I just really always appreciate when a woman is able to talk about sex openly. And there was a lot that she talked about that I relate to.
So we agree. We loved Brutal Recovery.
Love Brutal Recovery.
Lowe's.
Love Lowe's. I think I love her voice so much and her accent. And it was just great. It was such an energetic, fun listen. I loved it.
I agree, and you guys should check out her podcast, Brutal Vulnerability. Sure, it's excellent. You get to hear her and her friend. And I endorse whatever Lowe's is putting out. And that reminds me also that you guys should fucking go to Dopey YouTube. Nobody goes to Dopey YouTube. It's like a fucking ghost town of daily reflections.
Ghost town.
It's a ghost town of daily reflections, which is my own fault. I refuse.
I have to tell you, like, I don't watch the daily reflections that often.
What do you have to brag to the Dopey Nation? Nobody watches it. Nobody's watching it.
I do watch the Dopey YouTube stuff, but I don't watch the daily reflections.
Why? I'm incredibly spiritually gifted. I'm a spiritual giant.
I mean, and part of that,
sharing my wisdom. Are you fearful?
No, because so much of it is about AA stuff. Like it's based on you talk about the AA traditions and like all that stuff, which is great, which is fine. But like, I'm not in AA.
Listen, check it out. Mm-hmm. The daily reflections have taken a turn away.
Okay,
it is shorter, quicker, to the point. Different camera angles. Howie's out because he hasn't been around.
Right.
It's newer than new. And if you are looking for a little dose of spirituality, check it out. But we're about to relaunch Dopey YouTube with new stuff.
I have ideas for new stuff.
Better stuff. Look for some Erin stuff on Dopey YouTube. It's coming. And also, we just put out the sickest new Dopey hoodie with the praying mantis on the mushroom. So check that out at dopeypodcast.com. There's tons of good stuff. I still have a shitload of gear. And someone accused me of not shipping quickly because I say I don't ship quickly. I ship pretty quickly, though. I shouldn't put myself down. I ship pretty quickly.
I think I need to get you a little digital scale and show you how to do it.
A digital scale. I want a digital scale. I want it. I want to do that, and I'm shipping goods. So if you guys want the beanies, and I have a beanie for you.
Also, stamps.com could sponsor Dopey, and then you could do it through stamps.com.
I signed up with stamps.com, but I didn't know how to use it, so it's in the attic. If you guys want beanies or snapbacks or socks, Venmo me, write me on Instagram, and I will get it out within a week. Within 2 weeks, it will get out to you. Before
we move on, I just have to say one last thing about the episode.
Yes.
In my notes, that you need to go to the doctor.
I know.
For just a checkup.
I know. I'm scared I'm going to die. I'm scared like diabetes is in me and my children are going to be fatherless. Dopey podcast is not going to have me anymore. It's going to be over. Katz is not going to know what to do.
You got to just go to the doctor. Just make an appointment for a physical.
I'm doing it this week.
Okay, good.
It's on the table.
You heard it here. So next Friday, we'll get a follow-up as to whether or not you made the appointment.
I will do it.
Okay.
Oh, and next week, I think we have a fucking fire, fucking dopey episode. If not next week. I mean, I'm sure next week's episode will be fire.
It's going to be good no matter what.
However, we did this interview with this. I did this interview with this kid who's like fucking fentanyl dealer, body broker, going to prison. Look for it coming up. It's very it's
intense.
Pretty dopey stuff. So I got a note that I really want to read. I love hearing from people in the Dopey Nation, and I got this one on Instagram. And it says, I just started intensive probation back home in South Dakota. Been listening for a few months now. South Dakota. Hitting meetings, all that you and Dopey Nation help me see I can make it, and this is giving me an opportunity to truly shine. That's nice. I'm not so much concerned with dropping hot, which means pissing with positive thing,
right,
as I am a nervous pisser, and I live in fear and anxiety all the time now of the stress with not being able to do my UAs. Any stories or helpful advice out in Dopey Nation? Or ask Erin?
To pee, right? You need to know, like, if you've got nervous. I don't know if it's different for a man, but like
I don't even know if that's a man or a woman. I think it's a man.
Oh yeah, I just assumed. Isn't that terrible?
I think it's a man.
I mean, okay, this is going to sound so stupid.
Do you think it was a man because he said dropping hot?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't think a woman would say dropping hot urine?
Maybe. You could.
Dopey Nation, are you a woman who says dropping hot
I've
urine?
never once said dropping hot.
Well, I knew you didn't. I'm constantly dropping. My urine's hot, fucking, with or without drugs in it. I'm constantly dropping hot.
Here's the thing is that I used to have trouble peeing when I was high. Like, it just wouldn't come out.
Yes.
So, obviously, running water. But then also, I would do, like, multiplication tables in my head.
That's what did it for you.
Mm-hmm. I know that sounds stupid, but
it's relaxing the brain, untangling. So my advice, what I always did was, if I hear running water, I need to urinate. It's my dad's phone. Jesus. It's funny because no one's writing me that they miss my dad on the show.
Really?
I miss my dad on the show.
Yeah.
My dad did not like the Gabor stuff because he doesn't like to get blamed for my addiction and stuff. He always has a problem with that.
Right.
Now, what I do to I wonder what my dad does when he's having a hard time urinating. I know what I do is I think of the water dripping. So if I'm in the bathroom, I'll run the sink.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, what I always did with my daughter when she had to pee and whatever was happening,
Right.
I would go.
Right.
And
So you do that to yourself?
I do it to myself. But I've never had a hard time urinating in front of. My dad never said peeing. He always said urinating.
Yeah.
He never said peeing. My mom never said peeing either.
I wonder if it's like a New York Jewish thing, because my mother-in-law, who's from New York and Jewish, does not say pee. She always says urinating
Does she say jeans? My dad only says dungarees.
No, I don't think she says dungarees.
And when I grew up, I'm embarrassed to say this, but when I grew up, there was no poop. There was only bowel movements or BMs.
Yeah, I think that's what she says as well.
I don't know.
Or she says pish. No, she says...
Howard
she
Stern
says
pish.
She says make a sissy.
Yeah, my grandma used to say that. My grandma says,
It cracks me up.
Do you have to make? That's what my grandma would say.
Right. She doesn't like hearing the word pee.
Right. Jewish people don't like it.
Yeah.
It's beneath them somehow. It's interesting. Really weird. Anyway, so that's our advice. Dopey Nation, if you have any urination advice, please let us know.
Yeah.
So look for my dad coming on a show soon. I'm sure he's dying to come back. He's in Florida right now. He's having a nice time.
Nice.
And thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Look for Ask Erin on Patreon,
Yes.
YouTube, the new Dopey YouTube. Erin will be featured.
And come participate.
Come participate. There's going to be a new Dopey call-in show, which I'm excited about.
Oh, see, that's the best.
That's your time to shine.
Oh, I would love, I mean, that's, the dream.
That's the dream?
Yeah.
I think I can make that dream come true. And leave a review. Leave a fucking 5-star review and say something nice. Review Erin's book on Amazon. Fucking send in a voicemail. Send in an email to dopeypodcast@gmail.com. If you're going to write me a long thing on Instagram or Facebook, just send an email. It's way easier for me to keep track of. If you didn't get anything in the mail from me, write me an email. I'll get it out toot sweet with my charcuterie board. All right, Erin, thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
Stay strong, Dopey Nation, and fucking toodles for Chris.
Toodles for Chris.
wanna take a walk around the world. I wonder, would it do me any good? Until I get some money in my pocket, then I guess I'll just have to walk around my neighborhood. 'Cause I wanna be so good, so bad. Wanna be so good, so bad, so bad. I wanna be so good, so bad. But bad desire's all I've ever had. I wanna take a ride up in the sky and watch the aeroplanes just pass me by. I wanna see a Learjet liner take a dive, show all the people what it means to be alive. 'Cause I wanna be so good, so bad. Wanna be so good, so bad, so bad. Wanna be so good.